Hello. So I'm doing a switcheroo in my room, and that's what all the weirdness is behind me. Um, so please ignore the, those are brooms that I have made and are going to be shipped or being stored for next year's Renaissance Festival. Um, so ignore all that. That won't be there. Probably next time I make a video up here. Um, this video is before I get into my other miscellaneous that I always do before I get to the topic. Um, this video is, I have to give a disclaimer right now because this video is about suicide, assisted suicide in psychiatric disorders, people with psychiatric disorders. So if that's something that you'd rather not hear about, deal with, then don't watch the rest. Okay, my second miscellaneous thing is my hair and the hat. I um oh, and it just makes me look so awful. I got the world's worst haircut the other day. Um, it is so bad. I used to go to the same person and get the same haircut and the same hair color, and um, that was pre-COVID, post-COVID, well, mid-COVID. Anyway, I've switched careers, and the dog training I do now does not allow for, and I mean, in the beginning, I didn't want to go to a busy salon, and now I don't want to pay like almost $70 to go to a salon. Um, and so I've been making do with my mom's help in keeping my hair getting too long. And the reason I don't get it too long is because of the nerve pain I get on this side when my hair moves, when it gets too heavy. That might sound weird, but if you look up trigeminal neuralgia, it's very common, and you'll know what I mean. Anyway, so it can't get past a certain length, and I have a lot of hair, so it just bugs me. And it's gray, really, a lot of it now. And so I thought I want to try something different. That was the stupid thing. Trying something different with a strange hairdresser at Walmart. And so I really kind of deserve what I got. And so it's really bad. Um, it's like 3 times as short as I said, and it's just crazy. And my mom's like, "What did you do to your hair?" when I got home. And so I thought putting some pink on what there is of it would make me feel better. And it does, but um, it's just like, it's not short, it's like gone. It's like, luckily my hair grows really fast, and I just have to, I don't know. I think I'm gonna give up, give it up, and I don't, I don't know what to do. Anyway, um, there's that. And so I'm doing well. right now, the past couple of days, I did have a hypomanic episode. Um, I see, this isn't even my personality. That's what bothers me. Um, I look like some sort of wannabe grunge or something. Anyway, um, I had a hypomanic episode and I got a lot of this done, but I don't have the drive to finish it at quite the pace I was going. And I spent more money than I should. Not like spent broke like crazy, crazy, just a little crazy. Just like, I know I really shouldn't be spending this, but I gotta have this thing. You don't understand that I gotta have this thing and it's gonna be okay. Because I'm just gonna get this thing, but it ends up being 5 things. And um, so that wasn't good. I mean, yeah, this is like some of it was stuff I already had. So, but I gotta have that version or that um, I get collect. I get my hypomanics are very significant for needing complete sets of things. You know, buying the full DVD set. I can't just get season 1 and 2 and it when I'm hypomanic I gotta get not only get um Roseanne's complete DVD season 1 through a billion, I have to get all the 80s shows complete. You know, it's like that kind of thing. I would go into a store and buy the same thing every color. Um, and so like I had this time it was Harry Potter books. I have them all. I have a sort of raggedy set that I read, and I have a Hufflepuff set that are still in plastic. But I decided I wanted the originals in better condition so I can keep them, you know, and I'm like seeing all these different editions. I'm like, I'm so broke. How am I ever gonna get all these editions? And then I had to get all the puzzles and um of the one maker, one brand of puzzle, not the other brands, but every one of this set of this puzzle, you know. So I know that some of you know what I'm talking about. So I was quite aware of what was happening. The difference is that I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I was this close to saying, Mom, take my money, control my money, you know, until I say so. But I didn't quite need that. So let me talk about what I'm going to talk about because I saw on a video that Canada now allows for assisted suicide for people who have psychiatric disorders. And this has always been something that I'm on the fence with because um, I have a psychiatric disorder and I do believe in assisted suicide. Just the two crossing um, it makes my brain scrambled, discombobulated. because, well, for one, I before I trained dogs and worked at an animal shelter, I was a nurse. I was an oncology nurse. I took care of cancer patients. I took care of patients that were in hospice. I took care of patients that had no hope of um, getting better and all hope of their condition declining, and they were in pain, like excruciating pain. And I had no problem with them in their situations thinking about it or even doing it or even having a system in place that had checks and balances and whatnot, and decided, okay, yes, we will assist you, dying with dignity in that. The in and so there are a lot of medical, you know, things outside of psychiatry. There are a lot of conditions and diseases and syndromes and that people are suffering a lot, and they make this decision and nobody bats an eye. Well, I mean, then there's the religious suicide is a sin, but you have not seen this woman scream. I have. So, um, oh, I've seen horrible things as far as physical pain goes. People do not, unless they've been there, and yeah, even loved ones do not understand the degree of suffering people with psychiatric disorders go through. People do not associate suffering and psychiatric disorders in the same room, in the same space. You know, well, you're not suffering like they do. I would like to take you on a trip of some of my most horrible sufferings and come back and tell me it's not suffering or not suffering as much, as bad, as often. I have no hope of a, well, I don't know about a cure, but it doesn't look promising. I have every expectation of my mood shifting and my behavior going accordingly and doing things that that could endanger people's lives, that could endanger my life, that is just suffering. I had a therapist once that went through with me months, and all I did is I'd walk in and sit down and just sob. And it's just like, I have never seen someone suffer like that. I wasn't crying like, I'm sad. I was. I just, there was no word for it. It was just, couldn't explain it in language. But I have a feeling if you're watching this, you might know what I mean. Um, So that's something, I don't think that's something we can fix. I think that you can tell people till you're blue in the face that they're just not going to say you're suffering. Your suffering is the same degree of someone who, has cancer, or that's usually the one people throw out there. Um, but any, like syndromes that take away your ability to move your limbs and you get more paralyzed, eventually you suffocate and die. Um, so I do have a beef about that. Um, some of my depressions, I'm just blank, flat, and empty. And then I have the mixed ones that it's not just, okay, so here's why I bring Virginia Woolf in. Because she tells you what it really is going on. Um, Not only do I suffer during episodes, whether the episode is high or low, because it's affecting my quality of life. Even if I'm high as a kite, I'm ruining stuff. Then, in between, I have to clean up the mess. I have to live with medication side effects. Um, and about, I don't know, a third, no, three-fourths of us have um, substance abuse. I mean, there's more than just the episode. It's your husband just walked out on you, wants nothing to do with you ever again because they can't take your bipolar disorder any longer. That's suffering outside of the episodes itself. So then you have to deal with that. And that's devastating. I was engaged. That happened to me. Um, um, and your career. You can ruin your career, your credibility, your ability to take care of yourself, and you're on disability, which adds to your depression. You could be manic and still be depressed because you feel like less than. hmm And people look at you, like if you just maybe got your act together, you could do that thing again and be that person again. Like I could just, if I wanted to bad enough, I could be independent and work as a nurse if I wanted to bad enough. So back to Virginia Woolf. Now, you have to know who Virginia Woolf is, don't you? She is an author. She kind of falls into the classics, but later, like the 20s, 30s, honestly, I forgot because I read all her books, but there's one thing that just sticks in my mind about her. And I usually am very critical of Nicole Kidman, but if you watch The Hours, you get an idea. Okay, so Virginia Woolf had um, bipolar disorder. Before they really knew, they just knew that she had ups and downs. And the older she was getting, the worse they were getting. And they knew that when she wrote, and she really got into her writing, it kind of triggered mania, and they would shuffle her off to the countryside and tell her not to write. Okay, so for her health. Um, and so they didn't have medication yet. They didn't have lithium yet. And as bipolar does, with each episode you have, especially big ones that go untreated, this is a kindling effect. Um, each one is worse. That's why you want to get it early and get those cycles under control. You don't want the kindling effect. Um, okay, so she would get in these states so far off. She would just talk nothingness, just word rambles and word salads, and just she would talk to people, but she didn't need people to talk. She would just sit there and talk and never sleep, wander around. Her husband had to like watch her all the time, and she wasn't allowed to do the one thing that she felt good at and made her feel alive, and so she was out in the countryside with her husband, who babysat her while he worked a printing press, uh, a little thing, and so they're out there, and she starts to notice symptoms that she's going into a mania. She calls it something else. In her suicide letter, I think she 2 or 3, one to her sister and one to her husband, and she's like, I'm basically, her suicide letter said, I'm going into one of those states again, and I really don't think that you, her husband, or I can handle it. We'll get through it. And I'm afraid, or I know this time I'm not going to come out of it. I'm going to go into madness and never come out. And I don't want to be a burden on you. And so she sewed some rocks into a coat, walked into a river, and drowned. So, can you fault her? Can you tell her that's not acceptable? That that's not her choice? Um, she had a syndrome disorder that there was no treatment for, and was guaranteed to only get worse, and she'd become a further burden on people, and she was suffering. So if they had assisted suicide now, things were a little different then. But let's say now in Canada, would she qualify for assisted suicide with a psychiatric disorder? If there were a psychiatric disorder that did not have or was not responsive to medications and only got worse and worse and worse, and and made you more and more dependent, unable to care for yourself, maybe not feed yourself, not do anything enjoyable ever again, you know. Um, I was shocked one time when I was a nurse, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, our new nurse supervisor!" And everybody loved her. She was awesome. And I think she was maybe in her early 60s. She committed suicide. Oh my God. And then it came out that she had just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, early onset. And so she was a nurse. She'd been a nurse, and so are you gonna say what she did was wrong, or it was bad, or she should have just lived it out? Um, as far as myself, my concerns are, um, I do have 2 points to make. I'm a Libra, so I'm going to give you both sides. What is that? Devil's advocate, whatever you want to call it. I have had, I have attempted suicide, but see, my first attempt was delusional. Well, I had been depressed for a very long time. I was 15. And it suddenly dawned on me that if I killed myself, I would be happy. It was happiness on the, over there. And that's a theme that comes up with me, is there's happiness on the other side. I'll finally be happy. I have been miserable for so long, and I can be happy. And it's easy. All I have to do is die. Cool. So I take a bunch of pills that aren't going to kill me. I'm 15. I didn't know. And then a really strange thing happened. A friend called right after I was in the tub. I wanted to look clean and nice for my death, and clean my room. I did all the like if you read, I did like textbook, but I'd never read the textbook. I didn't know that this was my disorder, as a teen coming out. And so she called. She's like, you just sounded really strange earlier today on the phone. I just wanted to call, make sure you're okay. And I kept trying to convince her about what I'd done and why, and that I was going to finally be happy. And she called back to call my parents. And so I find myself in the ER, and they're doing the NG tube and the charcoal, and I'm puking, and it's just awful. And the ER staff are treating me like shit because, they don't want to deal with psych patients who are taking their lives when they're all about saving lives, whatever. Um, and I'm going, I don't want to die. All of a sudden, it dawns on me, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And nurse says, well, you shouldn't have taken all those pills. Anyway, so what if um I don't know how long a delusion can. I mean, I have had a delusion for many months, like a really long time. So, um, and as like I did have another one, but it didn't result in it was this close. And this time it was, my brain had convinced me that a teenage friend had killed herself right in front of me, but it was because we had a suicide pact and we were supposed to kill ourselves at the same time. And she shot herself, and I didn't do it. And that's why I have been miserable my whole life. If I just fulfill the rest of my pact, my promise, she's there waiting for me on the other side, and we'll be happy together. Um, I can carry a delusion for many, many months before someone catches on that something's wrong. So I only tell you guys about these things. Um, and um, psych and my psychiatrist. Nobody else. I don't tell anybody else those things because those are private, except for the world of YouTube. And and so the scary thing is that I lived with my mom, who was then married to a man who liked guns, and he had guns in the house. So we're kind of lucky I'm here because on my very next therapy appointment, I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, you know what? I think we should call your mom so she can come in and we can go over. Because I didn't talk about that. I was talking about other things. And then, like, my mom came, and I'm talking about San Diego. She's like, Megan, you have never been to San Diego. I mean, I was scarily delusional. Something about this camera is making me look like my eye doesn't work. Okay, so what if somebody is delusional at the time? Who's going to be able to weed that out of their head and say, oh, wait, they're going to feel differently in about 4 weeks or 4 days? You know what I mean? Um, that would be, I would like to know how they go about understanding that this person doesn't have any false beliefs about what's the goal of this taking of your own life. Um, in your right mind, I think anyone has the right to take their own life. I wouldn't want them to, but I think they have the right to in their right mind. Like, if you're a lot of people, it's like, did they get drunk and then depressed and then commit suicide? Or did they get drunk so they had the liquid courage to commit suicide? That, I don't know. Um, but I, I often think, I don't think about as far as like, oh my God, I commit suicide, take my own life, I kill myself. But I do ponder how, where, I would do it. Because I wouldn't want to hurt anybody, and so it's like, I mean, I wouldn't even want to hurt a stranger. So I would have to put a note on the door, don't come in here, call the cops. But then what about the cop that finds you? What if I put on the note that I'm suffering? And, like, though, I mean, like I said, people don't believe that you're really the degree of suffering people with psychiatric disorder go through. A cop would try to talk you through it, or a therapist would try to talk you through it. And I'm like, you cannot talk me through bipolar depression, bipolar mania. It's impossible. Nobody can do it. You don't know. I mean, my life could be miserable and I have bipolar disorder, or I could just be, or I could just have bipolar disorder. So, it doesn't matter. You can't talk me out of bipolar disorder. And so I'm like, so that probably, isn't going to make them feel any better about, so I wouldn't want it to be any way would be gory, so I'm not going to go any more into that, but that's the kind of thing I think of in my head. Um, and like before, I also think, what if I change my mind like I did in the ER and it's too late? So if I do get okayed for assisted suicide, what if I change my mind but I'm so doped up I can't say it? Hey, give me some Narcan. Or I don't know what they use, but what if I'm dying thinking, no, wait, I changed my mind. No, wait, I know that I'm going to feel better. But as the story of Virginia Woolf goes, she knew she was getting worse. She knew she wasn't going to get better this time. She'd endured a lifetime of this and of it just getting worse and of it just telling other people what she had to do and how what her husband had to do to take care of her and not to write, and that's a whole lot of suffering. That's a lot of suffering. And so I really am just doing a discussion here. I don't really have a point or an answer. Um, I have ideas, I have thoughts, I have feelings. There is that one thing I know for sure is that people do not know and can't know our suffering. The degree, the the horror and the guaranteed horror that I am every day I think about. I live with my mom. My mom, I haven't had a major episode. I've been in the hospital in a really long time, but she's been there through everything. So she knows what to watch out for. And I'm like, she's getting to the age where she needs someone to kind of keep an eye out for her, which I do. Um, as much as I can, which is physically usually, because as I get older, my cognition is less. I have other physical problems. Um, my hands are shit, excuse me, but I got this tremor. I've gotten tardive dyskinesia, and I drop everything I try to pick up all day. Um, I, you know, so I'm wondering if something happens to her, what's going to happen to me? Where am I going to go? Who's going to be watching? Who's going to know? Who's going to know I haven't gotten out of bed in 2 weeks? I mean, because my mom would come and make me get up. She would make my ass get up, whether I was super depressed or mixed episode, depressed episode. And I always know when I say something stupid in a manic episode because she gets this certain look on her face. And I'm like, well, I guess that wasn't a realistic idea. Later, I get that. But I have a guarantee that I I'm going to have some good moments, but a huge part of my day I spend worrying about my life without her or someone that knows what this is, because of her and my bossy service dog. I take my medication on time. I keep my appointments. I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. Um, I I I would like to do those things, but my brain's messed up enough as it is. Um, when I'm depressed, everything is dark, like literally, not figuratively, dark and heavy, and I can't speak. I can't dress. I can't, anyway. And on the other spectrum, I'm so whacked out going from this activity to that activity, not finishing anything, not focusing on anything, not sleeping, brain fried, embarrassed, you know. So I'm like, I have two brothers. One is definitely not a candidate for reaching out and calling me to see if I'm okay. And I'm like, am I at the point where I should be talking to my other brother and just sort of let this drop on him? If anything happens to mom, could you please call me at least once a week and talk to me for about 15 minutes just to make sure I'm not completely insane? Is he gonna do that? I don't have anybody else. I don't have kids. I don't have friends. Um, I have Linnaire's my friend, Eric's my friend. I have friends on here, but not that kind of friend. So So what happens to an old person with bipolar disorder? They end up wandering around a nursing home. I won't even have a dog there. I would definitely, in that situation, if I can muster up some sanity, I would get a lawyer and I wouldn't have money for a lawyer. So I guess I would just cheat my meds until I could take care of it myself. Because I am not going to go drooling around a nursing home. Like someone that had been, I went so high, I worked my way up so high and have dropped so low. And, and I don't know how many times I've picked up myself up by my bootstraps. And just like Virginia Woolf, she just, it, you just start over and over. It just keeps going. And so that's the overall suffering. You have the mood suffering, but the overall suffering is just knowing that it's going to keep happening and getting worse. So, those are my final thoughts. And because you have been so patient in listening to this long, I'm going to show you my really, really bad haircut. Okay? You ready? It's like gone. I wanted it like a little bit longer here, and then I wanted it to kind of come, I don't know, do some sort of Newt Scamander from Harry Potter thing going, except with he had curls, and this should have been a lot longer, but you can't even see in the back. My hair grows really fast. It's already grown. She buzzed it. It was almost bald. It was crazy. So I'm I don't know what I look like. It already looks better, I swear. It looks like it's grown this much already. So, anyway, do my little. Okay, so, let me know how you feel about the situation. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. I have videos going from up teen years ago. If you like to see crying, I cry in just about every one, but they're really good series and shorter. These new ones I do now are longer and farther, I think they're farther apart. Someone suggested if my mom would come and do one, and I'm trying to formulate how that might work out. Like if we would be, because I do one where it's like an interview about me, um, that my subscribers back when I had some did, but I'm wondering if maybe this one can be more of a conversation. I don't know. Um, Last time I did it, I was living in my own apartment. So maybe we can focus on the, excuse me. Um, yeah. Um, I will say that she has said that since I went on this something called a FODMAP diet, um, FODMAP, and it's about IBS with C. I have something like that. They've been calling it anything and everything. I found the answer on my own, and this GI problem I have had for all my life. And so I will go on this diet, and it's a bunch of sugars I can't have. And she says that I am more animated and have more energy and more peppy. But I also think it messes with my mood a little bit. So, um, I would rather have it mess with my mood a little bit because that was a whole different kind of suffering I was going through. Um, I just, uh, anyway, she has to bake all my bread and do all our food with substitutes, and she does a really good job uh, of making tasty food. And I'm like, I better learn how to do this for myself. So, okay, um, maybe that will be the topic I do with her. I don't know if she'll do one though, because the one I did was many, many years ago, and she's older now, and she might be self-conscious. Maybe I could do like a podcast type, and she can just talk in the microphone. Would that be okay? All right. I have to get to bed. I am way past bedtime, and I have to get up earlier than usual, which is not fun. So like I said, give me a like, comment, ask any questions, how you feel about this topic. Um, That's all I got for you. Bye.